Yeah, dear YouTube, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, like I didn't just record the other one today. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my mother-baby rotation of nursing classes at Chamberlain University. I have been super excited for this class since the devil was a boy, as we would say in Jamaica. Since the beginning of time. So for those of you who do not know, my interests heavily lie in the world of poom pooms. So antepartum, postpartum, I would say more so antepartum versus postpartum. So labor and delivery, high risk pregnancies for sure, NICU for sure. And so going into this rotation, I was like, yes, let's just jump right into this. So to start, make sure you stop and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, join the fam. And by the way, somebody told me that I have to get a name for you guys. The name that I really liked was Militia, which is kind of cute. It's militia, you know, like an army. So you're in the militia. Join the militia, period. Hey, militia, militia. Anyway, so I know it's corny, but it'll grow on you because it grew on me. It didn't take that long to grow on me though. In our 327 maternal child nursing, this was my first class that I took in the campus that I moved to, which is in New Jersey. The vibe up here is completely different. People take things a lot more serious up here. That's no shade to Atlanta. That's not to say that, you know, nurses there are more lax. People need to relax a little bit up here. At the end of the day, I loved my professor. She was super awesome, super funny, super down to earth. She really confirmed the fact that I love the specialty that I love. That's for sure. But I'll start by saying the Med-Calc exam, yeah. Make sure you guys spend time reviewing that practice test because there were 2 questions on that practice test that really threw me off. And I don't remember where they are right now because that was in November. But if I have a chance, I will go back in. If I can go back in and screenshot it and post a picture of them here so that you can see. If I can. I don't know if I can. Those questions really threw me off. This was actually the very first class that I've ever had to retake a Med-Calc class. And I was salty about it. When you have to retake a Med-Calc test, the pressure is ridiculous. Feel like, yo, it's crazy, and you don't ever want to have to feel like that. So just avoid that at all costs and just really study that practice test because the real test is just really the same thing, and it has to do with hanging Pitocin, I believe it was, some specific milliunits or milli equivalents or something like that. And it's an important thing because you want to make sure you don't kill a child or kill a parent who's carrying a child, you know. So those things are very important anyway. After you pass the Med-Calc test, diving into the class now. So the chapters that we went over in this class, so we started with maternity and women's health care today, ethical, social, and legal issues, nutrition for childbearing. So of course we harped on folic acid. Y'all get your folic acid in. Conception and parental development, maternal adaptations to pregnancy, antepartum assessment, care and education, assessing the fetus, process of birth, pain management during childbirth, intrapartum fetal surveillance, nursing care during labor and birth, nutrition for childbearing, postpartum adaptations, and nursing care, infant feeding, family planning, normal newborn processes for adaptations, assessment of the normal newborn, caring of the normal newborn, complications of pregnancy, intrapartum complications, postpartum maternal complications, high-risk newborns. Not that I'm smiling at the newborns being high risk, just that it's my jam. Complications associated with gestational age, development, high-risk newborns, acquired and congenital conditions. So those are the topics we touched on. And we spent a good amount of time going into depth on these things. The lighting is like doing its own thing at the moment. Sorry about that. The camera's just going in and out. The way that I would describe this class, the way that I said like mental health was basically like psychology For this class, it was basically like biology. First 3 weeks were like legit like anatomy and physiology. We were legitimately reviewing like mitosis and meiosis, like gamete formation, spermatogenesis, how conception actually happens, how is it traveling through the fallopian tubes to get to the uterus and implanting, and how that growth process is happening, and how the cells are multiplying, the blast, how it's becoming to form into a child. Like, you got to know each different stage, the different layers, ectoderm, mesoderm. Like, you got to know what each layer turns into, which layer is turning into a heart, which layer is going to become a brain, which layer is becoming the skin, which layer is going to be the kidneys. You know, you got to know all of those things. So that all felt very biology, you know. And then eventually it starts to feel mother baby. But first you had to know that foundation, of that biological foundation. Yeah, I hated biology. I hated anatomy and I hated biology. I'm a chemistry person. Like, that's my background. I love chemistry. And so the beginning was a little bit rough for me, but once we got towards the end, I caught on just fine. But even still, towards the end, there was still quite a bit of memorization, because this is like a unique class. It's not building on anything. Whereas adult health, complex health, that was all building on something. This was all new stuff. So placenta previa and preeclampsia, having a postpartum hemorrhage. Those are specific to a mother who has had a child. You're not going to see that anywhere else but in this specialty. So learning those values, or learning the amount of blood that is being lost, the amount of blood that should be lost during a vaginal delivery versus a cesarean delivery, you're only going to know that in this specialty. So it has an element of you have to memorize this information, but you can also have a little bit of application, because you can get a question that's like, Sally lost 1,000 cc's of blood in a vaginal delivery. What might you expect a doctor order post-delivery? She lost more than what she should have. She should have only lost 500 units, not 1,000. So she might need a little bit of a boost or whatever. So that might be a little bit of a application / memorization question, because you need to know how much blood she should have lost, but then also apply the fact that, well, what should you do to make up that difference? Do you know what I mean? And then also there's all of the newborn information that you need to know as well, dealing with mother baby. So all of the immunizations and educational stuff. So when newborns are born, you got to know, okay, they're getting their Hep B vaccinations, how to keep them warm because they don't have thermodynamic control, skin to skin, how that's important for bonding. You got to know family dynamics. You got to be sensitive to that. You cannot have your own personal preconceived like expectations in your head. You cannot assume like it's going to be a mom and a dad. You got to think about the world we live in. It can be a dad and a dad, it can be a surrogate, it can be a adoptive family, it can be a mom and a mom, it can be a single parent. You really don't know. So you just got to be really aware and ready for whatever is presented to you. And so that was a lot of what we learned, and it was just very specific to mother baby, and it was not like anything else that we've ever seen. And so that was just really exciting for me personally, because I'm very interested in it. At the beginning of the class, she asked like, so who's interested in maternal child nursing? And literally me and one other person raised our hand of the 40 of us that were in the class. So I felt very awkward. I was like, damn, I'm sorry that all of you guys suck, but the two of us, we loud and we proud. I had 4 weeks of clinical. 2 weeks were in labor and delivery. 1 week was in postpartum, and 1 week was in NICU. And my week in NICU was everything. So let's start with that one last, because we're going to save the best for last, okay? So first, my postpartum week. Postpartum week was okay. I love the nurse that I was working with. She was awesome. She's also a breastfeeding educator, so she was really good about helping moms, new moms and old moms, because they need some help to develop a better latch with their babies and really perfect that. And she was able to teach them the different holds and the appropriate ways to get the baby to latch and unlatch without ripping them from the teat and, you know, damaging or making their nipples sore. Yeah, postpartum was pretty cool. Nothing too crazy there. Postpartum legitimately is, like I said, it's not really for me. It's just like a lot of patient education. So it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of make sure that you don't do this. Make sure that you do this. Follow up with your pediatrician in this time frame. Make sure that the baby is doing this. Make sure the baby is having this many pees. Make sure the baby is having this many poops. And then also you have to make sure the baby does have their poop before they leave the hospital. If the baby is a little boy, if the baby's getting circumcised, they have to get circumcised within, you know, the 24 hours or whatever the case. I was able to assist in a circumcision actually during my clinical. That was pretty cool. It was actually pretty barbaric. I'm not gonna lie and let me not call it cool. It was actually like kind of gross. But you know, that's what you want, that's what you want. If you are a teacher at heart, postpartum is probably for you. So going through that day of constant teaching and then vaccinations, like with mom giving the flu shot, giving them the, did mom also get Hep B? We gave mom something else besides the flu shot. Maybe was it the MMR, meningitis? I don't know. We gave mom like several vaccines, flu shot for sure, gave baby Hep B, vitamin K, and we had to do the heel stick for the little circle test. What was the little circle test? I think it's to test for phenylalbumin, to test for PKU. I know it's PKU for sure. Labor and delivery. Now labor and delivery is hit or miss. My first day in labor and delivery was trash, not gonna lie. Postpartum, your ratio will be like 3 to 4, maybe even up to 5. It can only be like 1 or 2 if you have couplets, and couplets is like if you have twins. So if you have twins or triplets, then you're only gonna have like 1 patient or 2 patients, because that's a lot of people. You have mom and the babies. But if you have a bunch of singletons, then you can have a lot of patients. Whereas in labor and delivery, they'll only give you 1 patient. You might have 2, depending on the acuity of mom, what kind of problems she might have, what kind of comorbidity she might present with, how her previous pregnancies might have gone, and what kind of care she might need, and what kind of comfort, what kind of support she has. It's really just a waiting game, so it's not nobody's fault. It's just the fact that my mom was laboring for like 36 hours, dog, and I was only there for 12, and she was getting induced. So she had her Pitocin drip twice. She had her Cervidil. So we was up in there, okay. We was up in there ripening. We was ripening. We had the Cervidil up in there, you know, and it was just not doing anything. So she was about to get a C-section because the doctor was about over it, and I understand because so was I and so was she. Basically the nurse was just like, yeah, all we can do is just pretty much wait and just be supportive of her as much as we can. And I guess the point that she was at, she couldn't eat, so she was like kind of hangry, and she also had 2 kids at home, so she was missing her babies, and hubby was getting kind of anxious, and she had her mom too. So yeah, she had support, but it was just like they didn't know why the baby was just like not descending. I was with that nurse all day, and basically we just sat there and did nothing all day. We just checked on her. You have an active Pitocin drip, you have to check on them every 15 minutes, I believe it was, or it changes depending on how much the drip is. So I believe it was every 15 minutes at the time, and then once we stopped the drip, we didn't have to check on her until like every 30 or an hour. And then my next L&D shift was pretty cool. I got to see a precipitous birth. This was her second birth, and she told us that the last time she had a baby, it was very quick. She got to the door and had the baby in less than 30 minutes to the door of the hospital. Yeah, it happened the same way basically. She's such a rock star, like no epidural, like completely natural, and that's what she wanted anyway. It's just like the strength of a woman, like in moments like that, it's just so unreal. That was like a moment that definitely reconfirmed me wanting to get into this field, because I was just like, wow, that was amazing. And that was a labor that also was special because the baby was born with a true knot in her umbilical cord, and so true knots usually kill babies. So what happens is when the baby's in utero, they kind of fumble around a bit and cause a knot to be formed, and that knot cuts off the circulation to them. Usually are born as stillborns. And so somehow she was born completely fine. I actually have a picture because everybody was so amazed. The doctor was amazed. 1.5 pushes, because it would have been 1 push, but when she made the first push, the doctor saw the knot and was like, wait, caught the head, grabbed the knot, it was like trying to hold the knot and moving the knot from the head, and it was all this kind of like maneuver. It was like chaos, controlled chaos. It was like a lot, and it was exciting. And the nurse was like, Melissa, do this, and I had her leg. I'm like leaving out so much information because it was just so much. I had her leg, like I had the leg catch up, like, you know what I mean, like I was in there, you know what I'm saying. Baby cries, all is well, cuts the knot, done. And she actually had her so quickly, she tore all the way to her butthole. So yeah, the stitching process took a while. Like the doctor then had to stitch her back up for quite a bit, and yeah, that was crazy. But she didn't even feel like, as the doctor stitching, she was like, oh, I tore, oh wow. Like she was just so G. Like the mom was a G. I also got to see a C-section. I got to see 2 C-sections. C-sections are very intense as well. They make these little small incisions, and then they be tugging extra hard. Like I look like I'm being dramatic and aggressive, but legit they be tugging just as hard on these little patients. Now the NICU day, that was fun. I don't even know how to explain that. I think I'm gonna do a whole separate video on my NICU day. I actually got a job offer in the NICU, which I want to do a whole separate video on, and I'm very excited about. And yeah, I want to talk about how that happens. If you got to this point, I want you to comment down below congratulations, because I'm very excited, if you can't tell. As far as CMS, same thing per usual. Adaptive quizzing, practice A, practice B, do all the questions. So yeah, that was my maternal newborn rotation. And yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Alright guys, a little more.